I want to start by saying thank you. I didn't fully anticipate the response to my announcement that I was no longer a part of the Shandellas. And it's not because I underestimated people, but I think I underestimated how much I've been carrying. So the messages, the voice notes, the I see myself in this, the I didn't know I needed to hear this today. I can't tell you how amazing it was. I feel really held by that and I don't take any of it lightly. And so before I say anything else, I want to say thank you. And I want you to know that this space, this channel exists for connection, not performance. Even though I am a performer and there will be performing. There'll be performing. I'm going to perform. But this space and my work as a performing artist exist because of connection. To me, what it's all about. Right now, with everything going on in the world, it is more important than ever to find ways and spaces to remind each other that we're all humans and we have very shared human experiences. I'm not here to convince you of anything. I am here to tell the truth, my truth, and let it land where it lands. So I've been thinking a lot about the phrase starting over, and I didn't realize how triggering that phrase would be for some people. I have on almost every post where I've said starting over at 42, I've had somebody say, well, you're not starting over. It's okay. You don't have to start over. You have all this experience. And I agree. I am not starting from zero. I'm definitely starting from experience. I feel like, we always say if I knew then what I know now, but I do know now. And it's now. And so I can make choices with that in mind, right? But there's something powerful about giving myself permission to say starting over, especially when like the grief of no longer having the Shandellas really started to hit. And I'll talk more about the Shandellas later, not in this video, but I'll share more about it as we go. But when that grief really started to hit, and it was like, I needed it to be okay if I was starting from zero. I needed to allow myself to feel like I could burn everything to the ground and rebuild from the ashes completely and be okay. Because the truth is, we all can. We all have that ability, that strength, that right, and that privilege because we are living our lives. We are the navigators of our own existence. No, I do not feel like I'm starting from zero. I feel like I'm starting from experience. I feel like I am starting from discernment. And I feel as though I'm starting from a body that has lived now. And that's very, very different. And so when people hear I'm leaving a successful girl group, the first assumption is usually loss or risk or fear. And people are like, what are you going to do? Aren't you scared? You're so old. I'm like, girl, I know how old I am. Okay, I was born in the late 1900s and not even the last decade of that. Okay, so get out of my face. Get out of my face. And yeah, there's grief. Like I said, I've actually lately been navigating a lot of grief, and I feel like a lot of the nesting that I've been doing around here was about that. I've been cleaning my closet. I've turned into this domestic goddess. I bake bread now. I made cream cheese the other day for this cake recipe. Like a lot has been happening here. And I realize it's me grounding because of the grief of this big change and also what's happening in the world and this feeling of like, I need centeredness. I need ground. I need to use my hands. I need to be a person. I need to nourish. Like it's very real and present right now. And so, yeah, there's grief, but there's also relief. And that's kind of hard to talk about. There's a relief in naming something when it no longer fits. And I don't think we talk about that enough. I really don't. There is this part we don't say out loud that sometimes the thing that you prayed for, that you dreamt about, becomes the thing you outgrow. Just because something ends doesn't mean it didn't matter, right? Just because you're successful at one thing and that thing comes to a close doesn't mean you're no longer a success. And I'm speaking to both of us right now because Lord knows when you build so much of your identity around not just an entity that is outside of yourself, even if you're a part of it, but an entity that involves other human beings. It's like a marriage. Being in a group or being in a band is like being in a marriage. And so much of your identity is based on these relationships, and they matter. But so do you as an individual entity, right? And yeah, so I'm talking to both of us right now, honey bun. And for me, knowing the difference between the completion of this one part of my life and the beginning of this other part of my life requires an honesty that I was not prepared for. Because I think that's the thing. We don't like to talk about how letting go of something that is a blessing or that was a blessing is the right thing sometimes. And it's a type of honesty in your soul and in your body where you have to really listen to yourself, especially if you're someone that's been rewarded for endurance. Like, I have spent most of my adult life being very good at holding things together, at showing up prepared, at being professional, at making it work, at bringing light and joy. And I have so much pride in that. But there's also a cost, a very literal cost to constantly overriding your own needs. There is a cost to staying because you can instead of leaving because you should. This wasn't a dramatic decision. It was a slow one. It was a decision that revealed itself over time through my body before it ever reached my tongue. I noticed I was having issues vocally that I'd never had in my life. I developed a polyp. I noticed that I was tired in a way that rest just couldn't fix. I was grateful, but not always super excited. What would normally be excitement was anxiety. And the biggest thing was I noticed that the future started to feel smaller. And that just didn't make sense to me, considering all of the big stuff we were doing. And it didn't feel wrong. It just felt smaller. And I remember disclosing this to someone once. I whispered it because it felt like, you can't say this out loud. You're so lucky to be in the position you're in. And I know that. But it doesn't change the truth. And that scared me. That scared me so much more than leaving ever could. You have no idea. And when you're working in such close collaboration, there's alignment that is necessary to move forward in peace. And let me run that back. I'm just going to say this. At 42, you become acutely aware of time. And that doesn't make me panic. It just increases the stakes and offers a clarity and decisiveness that I have always longed for. You realize you don't want to rush, but you also don't want to stall. You know what happens when you overthink and wait for perfect conditions, and you know the pain of inaction and the disappointment of unfinished work. That's a big one. I now at 42 understand the power of presence, and I want to live inside the truth of who I am now, not who I was 10 years ago or who I'm expected to be next. And I want to be very clear about something. Leaving a group does not mean leaving music. Music is my first language. It's my first love, my first safe space. Music has many rooms, and I am giving myself permission to open the as yet unopened doors, baby. There's something powerful about saying, I don't have the next 5 years mapped out, and I trust myself anyway. And that kind of trust doesn't come from anything other than a relationship with yourself that says, I will listen when something changes, and I will make sure to move forward in the way that is best for my spirit, my mind, and my body. Starting over at 42 isn't a rebrand, it's a reclamation of desire, of creativity, of curiosity. It is me choosing to be in conversation with my life again instead of just trying to manage it. And I know there are people watching who will be feeling this acutely in their spirits. And if that is you, the person who has done everything right and still feels like something's missing, attained your biggest goal, but still feels sort of empty, it's not because you failed, it's because you're evolving. And if that's you, I want you to hear this. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not ungrateful. You are awake. So stay woke. Your body and your mind are giving you information, and that information is not there to berate or chastise you. That is the last thing our body wants us to do. That information is there to guide you to the next step with confidence and safety. This channel is not about answers. It's about asking better questions. Who am I now? What do I want to try? What am I no longer willing to ignore? And what happens if I trust that wanting something new is not a betrayal of what came before? I don't know exactly where this chapter leads, but I know I want to move through it with honesty, with humor, with presence, with room for magic. And if you want to walk alongside me while I figure it out, not as a fan, not as an audience, but as a fellow person having this human experience, you are very welcome here. So let's see where this goes.